Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and this is episode number 336. We're talking about living your top life with Dr. Morgan Oakes. This is a super powerful, super positive episode. I love Dr. Morgan's vibe. I think you will enjoy this one a lot. First, let's catch up on a few important things happening in the Mission Possible community. This is week number 4. So this is week 4 of our 28-day cycle. If you're new to the podcast, if you're new to the community, I put the entire community on a 28-day cycle. Certain things happen each week of that cycle where we can get a little coaching, we can interact, be a community, and support each other. This week, we are doing hot seat sessions. That way you can sign up for a 15-minute one-on-one with me, where we do little video chat sessions together. We can talk about your top transformation danger zones and get connected, and I can coach you up in that. Everything I'm talking about here is 100% for free. Let's put that out there as well. This is also the week where we are donating our weight loss. If you have lost any weight at all over the last 28 days, I need you to go to millionpoundmission.com. At the bottom of the page, you will see an option to donate your weight loss. I'm not going to ask for credit card, email, name, anything. All you have to do is just type in if you've lost 5 pounds in the last 4 weeks, donate those 5 pounds. You'll see the ticker go up on the Million Pound Mission tracker, and that will help us march towards that 1,000,000 pound goal together. And then also, this is a good week to prep our next battle plan workbook for the next 28-day cycle. And people that do this tend to have much, much, much better and more consistent results because you are mapping things out 28 days in advance. Now, you can take care of all of this stuff on millionpoundmission.com. If you want to get involved in the community, sign up for the hot seats. If you want to download your copy of the Battle Plan Workbook for free, you'll see at the top of the screen of the millionpoundmission.com website, there is a link to join the Mission Possible community, and that's where you can access all of the great free resources, get plugged into our group chats and challenge week and all that good stuff. So that's what's happening this week inside of the community. The other reminder I want to put out there is that starting this week, there will be no Friday episodes. We'll go to 1 episode per week. I am in the heat of quarantine mode here with, I got my kids here. The kids are not going back to school. For those of you that don't know, I usually record these episodes about a month in advance. So right now I'm just kicking off the month of April here, and this will come out on the 27th. But the kids are not going back to school. My wife is still working in her physical therapy clinic, so I am home with the kids all day. I'm doing their e-learning, and it's just a load. Like I am dead ass tired by the end of the day. But also my time to record is limited because you can only keep a 9 and 5-year-old quiet for a certain amount of time each day. So amount of time for interviews, solo episodes, all that is being limited. So just my ability to record and put out episodes right now is limited. So I'm putting that into the Monday episodes, and hopefully down the road we'll be able to put some more Friday episodes out. So stay tuned for that. All right, so I think those are good for the announcements. And just in general, I'm going to try to spice up the Monday stuff, maybe add in some of those hot seat sessions on the back end of a solo episode. So let me know if you have any ideas or what you would like to hear on the Mondays to kind of do a little combo effort to make sure it is super awesome for you. I got some great guests coming up. And speaking of great guests, Dr. Morgan Oakes is who we are talking to this week. So something I want you to think about. The question of the week is, do you ever feel like you aren't quite maximizing your full potential in life? So maybe your health isn't where you want it to be, or maybe your career or relationships aren't quite as fulfilling as you would like them to be. And this week we're bringing in good old Dr. Morgan Oakes to light us up and set us on a path to maximizing our potential and our ability to live our top life. So Dr. Morgan is the host of the Intuitive Wisdom for Modern Transformation podcast, where he shares the best of what he's learned as a doctor, a transformational speaker, a high-performance coach, a shamanic practitioner, and voracious student of life. So Dr. Morgan is a gifted visionary with a holistic view, and he inspires audiences and clients to develop and trust their intuition, integrate their life wisdom, and to cultivate the courage to live a life of inspired action. And his goal is to take people from where they are to where their body, mind, and soul are calling them to be. As you can tell by that bio, like, this dude is here to light you up and get you moving in the right direction with some serious positive momentum. So in this interview, we talk about the moment he realized that he was meant to help people heal. We dive deep on his personal development and self-care routine. That was probably my favorite part of this interview. I love talking about people's routines and just pulling out those nuggets of wisdom from that part of the conversation. I think you can apply a lot of things there. We talk about the common habits of people that are out there living their top life, another very interesting part of the conversation. And then, of course, I asked him to set us off into action with a simple action step to help you create positive momentum in your life right now. You will enjoy this one thoroughly. If you need a little shot of positivity right now, this will do the trick. So let's dive into episode number 336, Living Your Top Life with Dr. Morgan Oakes. All right, Dr. Morgan Oakes, welcome to the Million Pound Mission podcast. How are we doing today, my friend?
Dude, Adam, it's great to be here.
Well, I'm fired up. We met at a conference. Our energy is very similar. So the audience knows what that means. They're in for a high energy episode with many deliverable action steps. So Morgan, you are somebody, you're out there, you're helping a whole lot of people. And I want you to tell us the story about when you first realized that you had a purpose in life to help people heal, to help people make progress in their lives. So tell us about that moment when you realized, like, oh, this is a thing that I might drive towards in my life.
Interesting question. Wow, we went sideways right away. So initially I was a mechanical engineer. I got into chiropractic based on a history of sports injuries. But that question's asking something else. It was years after I'd become a chiropractor, and I was actually in a ceremony, and I was doing this personal growth work, the spiritual growth work. And in this ceremony, I just started crying. And I was just crying and crying. And I'm like, how do I help heal the world? And what's confusing was, even though I was already a chiropractor, I was already in healthcare, it wasn't something I ever really cared about, that bigger picture, how do I help heal the world? So the reality is that's when it came in. And I think that's what's also led to me, doing more than just chiropractic, because what I realized in that practice was if I could get somebody's body healthy, but the rest of their life was still a mess, life still isn't great, right? Quality of life in one area of life doesn't mean total quality of life. So that's actually the point where that came in, and it's things have really expanded from there.
Yeah, we have a similar thought pattern there where, I started off in personal training and I started to get frustrated because I'm like, I only see these people once per week for an hour and I can't really initiate the change that I want to make with that 1 hour per week. So I started thinking bigger. Okay, boot camps, comprehensive programs. And then we started doing that. And I'm like, still not all the way there. So let's think mindset, let's think coaching, let's think podcasting and all that stuff. So I feel like we're on a similar vein there. And with your own journey, you mentioned you got a job as a chiropractic and that started to facilitate the whole career path. Mm-hmm. What was the next evolution as far as your coaching goes? Tell us a little bit about what that looked like.
Yeah. And even within chiropractic. So it's interesting, I think, and you and I were talking a little bit about food, obviously, and eating styles and things like that before we launched into the podcast here. And it's interesting. There's so many points of view. There's so many camps, right? And I think that's true within any discipline, any theory, philosophy, lifestyle thing. And within chiropractic, it's very niche. There's so many this technique, not that technique, right. This style, not that style, even to this profession, not that profession. And within chiropractic school, I was like, they all seem to work. What's that key thing? And I spent my whole time in chiropractic school searching for what's that thing that makes all of them actually work? What makes all of them right?
I love that.
Yeah. And I got to say, it makes you worse at being a chiropractor in chiropractic school if you're interested in every technique as opposed to one. So I felt a little behind at the time, but it helped me have a bigger perspective. And then the reality is a lot of chiropractors, let's say, may not necessarily want to refer out to a physical therapist or other professions. I shouldn't say a lot. I should say some. Yeah. Well, within a school of 2,000 chiropractic kids, I was one of 10 people that worked in the physical therapy department. Because I'm like, no, this is important. This makes sense. I'm going to add this in as well. And then I got out of school and I was doing a technique that it's more posture based. It's like if a traditional chiropractor is like a dentist, I was more like the orthodontist, right? So
Interesting.
but there's major camps in there as well. So I learned one technique, but it wasn't getting everybody well. So then I learned the technique that like splintered off from that technique 30 years ago. So I learned both of them and was doing both of them. And I just kept going, you know, what's that bigger picture? And then and it just has kind of evolved from there. I mean, even within that, and I think this plays into the people that are here, not about chiropractic or physical therapy, but about food and health and lifestyle. I was at a research symposium conference, and they were sharing research of the top 10 predictors for chronic low back pain. Right. And you and I know how to really help chronic low back pain with the gym and with chiropractic, right?
Right.
Well, the research said of the top 10 things that are predictors, only 3 of them are physical. Right. So 7 of them are psychosomatic. It's what do you think? What do you believe? And so then I studied neurolinguistic programming to help train the unconscious mind. And it just, I keep, I think I have a deep belief in what I'm doing, but I also am the person that's open enough to play devil's advocate and go, okay, what are we missing? And so based on that, it's just continue to add more and more things. I became a certified high performance coach. I've,
Yeah.
learned meditation. There's so many aspects. So I'm ravenous for, how can I create transformation with myself and also support that other person and, you know, doing what get it, I want for them what they want for themselves, and how can I empower them to get there?
Yeah, and the thing I like about your style is that it seems like you're looking for the through line, the connection, like you said,
Yeah.
of instead the camp mentality, the us versus them, the who is more right is ruining the health industry where there's a lot of
Yeah.
ego already. Like people that work out and work on their body, there's a little bit of ego in that. Like they want to look good and they want to, be
Yeah.
able to impress for certain reasons. And that's creeping in too much where I see it a lot in like the keto or carnivore versus vegan and who is more right and whose new movie just came out to bash the other one, or
Yeah.
with chiropractic and physical therapist. My wife's a physical therapist. She is very pro chiro, and but she
Yeah.
feels some blowback from acupuncturists that don't want her to dry needle people and chiropractors that don't want her to manipulate anybody. And she's like, let's just share information. It's not chiro versus PT or vegan versus keto. It's healthy versus unhealthy, and we lose
Yeah.
sight of that common mission sometimes. You feel what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Dude, I didn't realize that about your wife. And I've always been that guy, like, let's have a conversation. I feel like I can, well, in chiropractic school, a woman I went to school with was dating a medical doctor. He came to class one day and, he was in town visiting, came to class, and I just was in conversation with him because I know when we talk about all the things we have in common, there's so much overlap
Yeah.
unless we try to focus on the things that are different or we get campy about it. And yeah, so I really love that. And I think the other thing where we, there's a disservice to people when we do that. If we make us right and we make everybody else wrong, well, for some people, they've done 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 things. And if all those things don't work, and now you make everything else that they've tried wrong and you make yourself right, and then what you do doesn't work, you know what I mean? Like at a certain point, like I think we can ruin the people we're trying to help because, you know, if you're the only solution, but they don't fall into your bell curve of, getting results for
Yeah.
them, it's been more of a curse than a blessing that you've
Yeah.
left in their mind.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
100% agree with that. And so we're both kind of on the same mindset with this. And if you guys are listening, you kind of get trapped up. It's not just the coaches that get campy, it's the communities get a little bit campy too. So if you get into that situation where you feel like it's us versus them and you're doing keto and you don't like the vegan people and you go on and bash their Instagram posts or vice versa or whatever, just disabuse yourself of that whole situation and ask yourself, am I driving towards health or am I driving towards drama? If you're driving towards drama, that's not going to take you anywhere that you want to go. And we need to, again, disabuse ourselves of that mindset. And that's something like I really want to do, like a United Nations podcast where I bring in all different nutritional styles and some of like the controversial people out there that tend to bash and just get them all, sit them down. Like, let's talk about the through line. What are the common
yeah,
factors that seem to work for everybody? And let's focus on that. And then I don't know, It's just, a podcaster can dream, Morgan,
Dude. Hey, Adam, so if I could I'm like, oh my God, I want to be involved with this. So if I was involved with this, here's what I would do. I would invite all the top people, and then we would put whatever their technique is, whether it's keto or vegan or, whatever it is, throw it into the hat. And then they have to pull out of the hat one of those things. If it's theirs, they have to throw back in. They have to argue for somebody else's camp, force everybody to argue for the other camp, and just mix it up. And yeah, it's, there's a lot of power in that.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's going to happen now that we put the mojo behind it. So, we've already discussed how you have a very wide range of ability to help people. Yeah. So what would you say, what's that wheelhouse struggling zone that you're like, I can knock this out of the park and get people a quick win right away when they come to me and they feel stuck, or they aren't making progress with their health or with their life or with their relationships? What's that one situation that you feel like you tend to help people in more than all the other stuff?
Yeah. So a lot of what I speak about, within my podcast, from the stage, within my coaching, is the synergy of success. And it's a really easy thing. It's 3 steps. It's clarity, courage, inspired action. And so I feel like if people can get clear about something, be courageous enough to take that step, and then find a way to stay in inspired action, that will get people in motion. And I find that people get stuck in one side or the other. They have a ton of clarity. They know what to do. They know their next step, but they're not courageously stepping into it. So they just keep asking the same question because they never are living into it or taking that first motion. Or I find that there's people that they're in action, like they're just busy, they're going, they're doing, but it's maybe no longer the right thing for them. So they've not been courageous enough to go back and ask those good questions again. Yeah. So I feel like people will get stuck there. And for a lot of people, I think if they just stop, almost act like they have a clean slate and go, okay, let's ask this question again. And, so I give tools, and we can do this today, or we can send them out for resources, whatever works best for where you and I end up in our conversation. But there's lots of ways to get, really profound, deep levels of clarity. And then once you have that clarity, get into action, take that courageous step and start moving. And then once you're in inspired action, how do you stay in momentum? How do you keep your energy up? How do you not burn out? How do you make sure that, it's still the right direction for you? So that's kind of the bigger picture, and we can dive into that anywhere you want to.
Yeah. So let's do an example, because I know a large part of my audience has been in what I refer to as the black hole of weight loss doom, where they lose 10 pounds, they gain it back. They lose 30 pounds, they gain it back. It's just kind of a negative, a slow backslide, or just kind of the first 9 months of the year, they drop the 40 pounds, and the holiday season comes, whoop, we backslide back. So I know that a lot of them have clarity on what they want to achieve. They want to feel like they're in control of their health. They want to feel like they are able to move steadily forward. And what I feel a lot of them are lacking, and not to put words in my audience's mouth, but I talk to a lot of these people, they're lacking that second step of the courage, where they're afraid of, well, what if I do this thing and, when am I going to gain it back? It's that fear of gaining it back that's holding them back, because it's happened to them so many times. So let's maybe speak to that virtual person they're ready to make a change. They're inspired. They're clear on where they want to get to, but they are just lacking that next step. And they're afraid of, they basically are talking themselves out of taking action, because they are like, wow, I just don't want to gain it back again. And so I'm in my head about it. So where are we going to go with that as far as coaching that person up?
Yeah. And it's interesting, I think it's always interesting when it's like, oh, her name is Mary and she's this age and this is what she does for work, and this is the eating style she's involved in. And, there's so many variables in focusing on this, right? So let's just make it broader. And I would say most of these people, because I see them a lot in my office as well, right? So most of these people, they're doing half of this, part of that, 2/3 of this. They did this 3 years ago and they maintained one part of it, but they let the The rest of it drop off, and they're not sure about their workouts. And, so I think a lot of things are really disjointed with them. And the other thing that I see with a lot of them is, have you ever done one of those things where there's music playing and either you're singing or dancing and they keep speeding the music up faster and faster and faster and faster till everybody messes up and you all laugh and you stop?
Yeah.
I think life gets like that, right? Like
Yeah.
you probably see a lot of people where they're running and hustling. I got to do this and eat this and journal that and wake up at this time and stop eating at this time. And they've got so many things happening, but they're probably a half step behind on all of it, and life
Yeah.
feels chaotic. So a lot of times I think the key is just stop, right? Set it down, stop chasing, stop thinking, and just literally just stop. And then from there, if we step into clarity, anytime I'm speaking to a crowd, and it's really easy with the crowd, you're like, all right, you raise your hand and you get everybody to raise their hand. Like, who here knows one thing you could do to get healthier? Right? Everybody already knows that answer, and no matter what eating style it is, everybody has an idea of the one that's, it worked for them for 2 years, but then they moved or changed jobs or got married and they stopped doing it, right?
Yep.
Like, if we just stop chasing, we usually know the answer. So I think stop chasing, get centered, come back into yourself, get clear about what you're going to do. And I think there's a lot to be said about picking a lane.
Yeah.
Don't do half of this, 2/3 of that, and a quarter of this. Like, pick a lane and then just make a commitment. I love that for you committed to 365 days and made it 1,000, right?
Yep.
Of no processed foods. I think
Yep.
that's amazing. And it's kind of that bright line idea of like, I'm gonna design the rule for my life and I'm gonna live into that.
Yep.
And so I think stop, get clear about what you're gonna do, and then also surround yourself with those good people, whether it's a friend, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a coach. Like, have somebody you can model what you're doing after, and then just make some type of commitment to yourself. Not a lifetime commitment. Make it be a month, make it be a quarter, make it be a year. Like, do whatever's reasonable for you. Set yourself up for success. And then I think the last piece is really watch your verbiage around it, because we've all swung for the fence and struck out.
Yeah.
Right. And if we talk about that, that's what our unconscious mind hears. And so really cleaning up the languaging, because for chronic low back pain, beliefs are, 70% of what's there, as opposed to getting fit or getting an adjustment. Right. So I think just cleaning up that verbiage, like, yeah, how's the weight loss going? You know what? I'm doing better and better every day. All right, have you made your goal yet? You know what? I'm closer and closer to that goal every day. Like, whatever it is, frame it in the positive and just allow yourself to start experiencing some success and some things you can be proud of for yourself for. And yeah, that's a long answer to that, but I think it's hard to, sometimes you got to tear the house down, right? Like, just tear it down and go, okay, if I was building a house today, what would it look like? I don't care what's already in the living room. Like, tear it down and go, if I was to build it today, what would that look like? And not what worked for Sue or Mary or Jeff necessarily. Like, what's going to work for me so I can have a successful go at this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally agree with what you're talking about with the overwhelm. I did an episode called Overcoming Fitness Podcast Overwhelm. And as much as I love being a podcaster, we are good at what we do. And we are very high energy people. We're influencers. That's what they call us. But people will listen to my show and implement one thing, and then they'll listen to your show and be like, "Ooh, I need to implement that too." And then they'll listen to Jay Ferrugia and be like, "Oh, I need to implement that also." And then the fear of missing out starts to happen, and we're doing lots of little 1% efforts in a whole lot of different directions, instead of making a 75% effort in one, then having a supporting effort that's the rest of the 25%, and really seeing change and really seeing progress. So one of the ways I see this happen to so many people, I'm like, all right, you've got all these goals. I want you to just write them down. You've got all these ideas. I've an idea bank Evernote file where that eliminates the fear of missing out. All the things I think are cool ideas that I want to implement, cool. Just write them all there, brain dump it there. I review that once a week just to keep it top of mind. I pluck the fruit off the tree when it's ready, when it's ripe and ready to go, and I implement. So doing that, and then also, like, what is that one come hell or high water goal that you want to focus on, and let's drive towards that. That's going to have the most positive impact on your life. So if that's,
Yeah.
I gotta stay hydrated, I gotta drink my body weight in ounces of water every day, then let's, like, no matter what, do that. And don't stress out about getting workouts in 12 hours a week and all this other stuff. Like, let's drive towards that one goal. And you're speaking my language. My audience loves it, and they know that I love it when people are using the verbiage that I use. So like the 28-day game plan, committing like that, using community, using accountability and positive support. That's my jam. So you're speaking my language, Dr. Morgan.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, yeah, and it's dude, I really love your podcast because I love, I've listened to some episodes. I also flipped through a lot of them, and it's just nice to have a kind voice that's not yelling at people, that's empowering them, and that's just giving, like, let's bring in a bunch of different points of view here so you can find what's going to work for you. And yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And we are influencers out there. So we have to lead by example, of course. And that's why we're out there doing what we do. And that's whenever I get somebody that's really into, influencing people to get healthier, to make change, I like to see what you're doing. Like, what does your self-care routine, your own personal rituals, your own personal growth regimen, what does that look like? How are you, initiating this type of change in yourself?
yeah, great question. And so, for me, I've always been the skinny kid, right? So it's for me, I always wanted to put on mass, and it was a struggle. And I think the risk there can be, and actually, I can picture this guy. I knew a guy in chiropractic school that ate Doritos and just ate all this garbage, but he was thin, so he thought it didn't matter. When we first started
Yep.
school. And I think that's the risk, is you can get some really unhealthy thin people that it's just really deceptive. And so for me, my eating, my exercise, my lifestyle has really had to be about performance, longevity. I'm tracking. I played rugby for a decade, so can't ignore the research on brain trauma,
Yeah.
right? So I have a cold laser that I do treatments on my head for that. I kind of follow the plant paradox diet. So really just cutting out, gluten and lectins, and just really
Yeah.
looking for anything that's going to negatively impact my gut, my long-term brain health. If I'm completely honest, and I thought about this when I was getting ready today, if I'm honest, my struggle is sugar. And I'm at a point right now where I know I'm needing to do just a clean break because, yeah, if we go, let's just go further into it. Let's be completely honest. Emotional eating,
Yeah.
right? Like, I got out of a relationship with a woman that I love deeply, and I'm skinny, right?
Yeah.
I'm more fit and thin now than I was skinny when I was younger, but I can quote unquote get away with it. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to eat some gluten-free cookies and some kombucha and some gluten-free pizza and dark chocolate. Like, and for people that would lean into other substances, that almost sounds funny. But for me, it's when I can tell that I'm not doing well. And so I did what was necessary to get through that. I just allowed myself to emotionally eat because
Yeah.
I'm running a business. I'm doing all these different things. And I'm like, I need to show up today and get this work done. So what's it going to take?
Yeah.
And so I cheated on some values that are important to me. And I also was like, it's okay right now because I know I'm doing my emotional healing. And on the other side of that, I can step back into my strength. Right.
What?
So if we're just being completely
Yeah.
honest, I mean, I'm certainly not the only person that's dealt with something like that. Right.
Well, yeah. So what is that on ramp back into normal, or not normal, but just positive momentum again? What does that look like? So you went into the
Yeah.
zone where you're emotionally eating a little bit. That's a lot of people get there, but they struggle with getting back into their groove. So what does
Yeah.
that look like for somebody like you?
Yeah. I kind of started over. I was like, okay, what is it that I need? And so even from a baseline, like the initial question, daily habits. So I implemented Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. club, and partially it's because every morning I really got further into meditation earlier this year. And when I added that in, it started cutting out some of my other morning practices and things got tight and rushed. And so finally I was just like, you know what? I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and see how that feels. And what I found was then when I got up, I had time to journal my dreams. I had time to do like a 20-minute high intensity workout to change my physiology, 30-minute meditation. When I do a shower, I did Wim Hof,
Yeah.
the ice
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
I did a training in January here where we did the training and then went up and got in a mountain lake
Did
on
you do the
January.
mountain? Oh
Yeah,
man.
January 21st. Now I got to say, it wasn't like you got to walk through a snowbank to get there. It was, it was a dry beach. It wasn't that cold, but it was still January outdoors in Washington,
Yeah.
probably, 45 minutes away from a ski lift. So,
Yeah.
so I do my cold shower, so I've got a lot of things that I added in, but what I did to get back on track was I added in the 5 a.m. I set a goal for how long I was going to do it, because I was really resistant to getting up that early, to be honest, and going to bed that early.
Yeah.
But I made a commitment. I stepped into it. And like, even, I also have some books that those books where it's like 1 page a day for 365 days of the year. I was up to 4 of them before all this happened. I got rid of all of them. I picked just one to start with again.
Nice.
So I cleaned out my habits, and just started re-adding them. And then the other thing for me, I can't necessarily lead with food and have exercise follow. If I lead with exercise, then my food will tend to follow. So I stepped back into some exercise things because then I tend to behave and clean things up differently.
So
Um,
one thing I want to note about what you just said is I see a lot of people that when they're struggling, they decide like, all right, now it's back on track, and they move their lifestyle and their schedule. They attempt to jump right back where they left off. So if they were doing 4 of those books when they were being successful, they go right
mhm.
back to 4 of the books. But what they don't realize is that's just heaping on pressure and stress on top of what they're already dealing with. And there has to be some on ramp time, like we talked about. So I love
Yeah.
that you're like, all right, I'm not going to do 4. I'm going to do 1. I'm going to do 1 to the best of my ability. And maybe it's not. I was working out 5 hours a week and I've been doing 0 hours per week. So how about we split the difference and do 2 hours per week, or 2.5 hours per week? So having that on ramp mentality where there's a little
Yeah.
bit of a back step to start making progress forward again. I think that's an important note to make.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think, like the book, The One Thing, like what's that one thing that will help level up all the other ones? And for me, it's honestly fitness. When I'm eating better, I think better, I move better. I was also really thinking about our conversation today, coming into it as well. And I think ultimately a lot of this plays into energy as well, right? Like for me, I need to do things to keep my energy up, because when my energy's up, I eat good foods, I make good decisions, it lowers my stress. It allows everything to be positive. If I let my energy get run down, I eat bad foods, I lean into caffeine and sugar, I lean into things that I don't have to cook, just I don't make good decisions about, my lifestyle choices, my just everything spins out. And so, I think, maintaining energy, like I use breath things. And actually, this was something I thought maybe we just share just real briefly on the call, because I'm like, you know, diet, weight loss isn't always my niche, but I know that what I can do can be applied to any niche. And so I'm
Yep.
like, okay, what's my one thing I wanted to share on the show? And I think it's a breathwork thing, because we can't always exercise right in the middle of the workday, maybe to get our energy levels up. We can't always even eat necessarily, because sometimes it's in between meals or it's not available, or what is it? So how can we raise up our energy so that the need to do those other things goes away? And I think one of those is a high performance coaching technique, which is just around breath. So
Let's do it.
I'm already standing. I'm going to demonstrate. I know some of you are just going to be listening to this on audio. So if you're driving, obviously be safe. Don't do this right now. But when you get to a place where you can do this, it's standing up. And what you would see if you were watching this is I'm just bouncing up and down a little bit on my heels. You're pulling in your physiology. You're getting just a little bit of movement with it. And then it's breathing into the belly. So nice, big diaphragmatic breathing, in through the nose, out through the nose. And you're going a little bit faster than you normally would. Now, I want you to be safe. If you start feeling lightheaded, obviously take care of yourself. I sometimes recommend people do this near a table or something where they can kind of brace themselves in the beginning. We don't want any physical damage to occur, but it's, it's up and down, it's in through the nose, out through the nose, and it's loud enough your neighbor would be able to hear you, right? And I'll do that. And to be honest, if you do 10 of them, you'll probably feel drunk. If you do 20, it's probably going to be too much in the beginning. But every 50 minutes is a high performance coaching technique. I add that in. I'll set an alarm on my phone when I'm working. I'll do it throughout the day. Like I know the guy that teaches this, Brendan Burchard, he's like, yeah, even during a movie, I don't sit down for a 2-hour movie. At an hour, I pop up and do my stuff. Right. So I have really leaned into this one. Like, I need to show up for a podcast and be vibrant so I can hang with you, Adam. I'm going to do some breathing. I need to make sure that the last hour of work is as productive as the first hour. I'm going to do some breathing. It's not time to eat yet, but I'm hungry. I'm probably going to drink a glass of water and do some breath work. So I think that's the thing. If you can raise your energy up, it also helps you make good decisions and helps a lot of the other negative impulses and ways that we kind of let ourselves down go away also.
So what would be a good routine if people want to implement that breath work? Like, how many times per day? And then how many breaths do you recommend when they're first getting started?
Yeah. So a lot of the research on productivity says if you'll do a break every 50 minutes and just block things, you're going to be more productive over the day. And I think that's true, whether it's physical work, mental work, creative work, or it's, showing up at home, taking care of the family, like on whatever level, just try it out to set an alarm for every 50 minutes. And it only takes a couple minutes. Like sometimes I might do like 10 squats, I might do 20 breaths and just get back to it. Sometimes I might go pound another glass of water, use the restroom, do some breath work, get back to it. But yeah, every 50 minutes. And I would start out honestly with probably just 10 breaths.
Okay.
I would move it towards a goal of 20, but to be honest, and I said drunk, I feel like lightheaded and woozy a little bit. But then to be honest, after that, like even right now, just from what I demonstrated, I can feel all the hair standing up on the back of my neck. I can feel my back tingling. I can feel my hands kind of surging. And I'm like, all right, my body and my mind are like, what's next? What are we going to do? Let's tackle something. Let's go after this. So
yes. Yeah. Now this applies only to me, but it's my podcast. So my audience loves it when I get selfish. I've got a bulletproof vibe plate, so a vibration platform.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So doing this on that kind of makes sense to me. Would I still need to do the toe raises, or is it, I mean, when I stand up straight, I can feel that shaking in my head already. But the breath work and the vibe plate seems like it would make sense for me too.
I might experiment with it. And I'm a guy, if I can quote research, I'll quote research. If I can just go, well, this feels intuitively true to me, I'll say it that way. I might do both of them. And here's the reason why. I love vibe plates. You're just bringing in so much physiology. There's so much research around that. And as a gym guy, I remember this from like 15 years ago. If you do bicep curls on a vibe plate, aren't the strength gains over the first 6 weeks it's like sixfold, or it's like it's ridiculous. Yeah. So I love vibe plates. They also make them where they'll do certain frequencies based on what you're wanting to achieve. I don't know if yours does that, but
mine's one set and go.
It's one set. Yeah, I might share this other thing. I just found a new one here in the last couple months. But so vibe plates at a certain frequency, and I love that. So I might do that. And then I may also do the bounce thing on your own as well, just because it's different neural pathways. Probably it's going to be different speeds. It's going to affect the mechanoreceptors differently. So if I were you, I would experiment and see which one gives you the juice you're looking for.
Yes. All right. I love it. I love experimentation. So we talked about breath work. You've mentioned some things like meditation, journaling, 5 a.m. club. You're exposed to a lot of people, and you see high performers, you see people that are very healthy, and you're somebody that searches for the through line like I do. So what would you say are the common characteristics of the people that are really crushing it with their health, with their mindset, with their productivity? Like, what are some of those common through line habits? Are all those people meditating, or all, what do you see in as far as common ground among those people that you have access to?
Yeah. So that idea of the through line. So I study spirituality. I'm a shamanic practitioner as well. So it's, what were they doing for health and spirituality 5,000 years ago? Right. I also am a chiropractor and, trained in physical therapy. I'm also a high performance coach, neurolinguistic programming. What I love about all those things is a lot of them say the exact same thing to do. Like the homework from my spiritual teacher is the same as my homework from my high performance coach. So I love that there is a through line, even when you're just talking about things so completely different. Um, the first that I think is so important, just foundationally, is a morning practice. We know that if you get on your cell phone or check social media or email in the first hour of the day, your productivity goes down by double digits. Now, it's going to be productivity if you're staying at home, if you own your own business, if you're an employee somewhere else. We know that idea of like, oh, I got out, did you get out of bed on the right side of the bed or the wrong side of the bed? Like, you can control that.
Yeah.
So I think having a morning practice that resonates with you, and I know some people that it's a fitness one, it's a meditation one. I know people that they just drink their favorite hot drink and stare out the window for 30 minutes, journaling, tracking their dreams. Like, there's a plethora of things. I feel like everybody that's successful talks about their morning practice. So I think that's a good starting point. Um, Having things be a habit, and I know for me, I'm a creative. I'm an ENFP. When you look at that type of a Myers-Briggs
Yep.
designation, I hate my boxes. I don't like being put in boxes. And what I've realized is if I create my own boxes, it allows for my own freedom.
Yeah.
Right? So I do things to create structure, even though I don't truly like structure. I create structure because it gives me freedom.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's the second piece. And then the third piece is modeling, mentoring, coaching, whatever it is. Either, if there's somebody down the street that has a great relationship, they're doing good with their finances and they're fit, model what they're doing. Watch what they're doing and model after it. Or maybe get into conversation, see if they'll mentor you. Or obviously there's people like you, like me, and like all the coaches that we lean into, because I
Yep.
know that we both have them. Who's that person that can coach you, that they're doing what you want to do? They are who you want to be. They've got that next piece of the pie that's necessary for you to be living your top life. And so I think leaning into somebody for support on whatever level, your podcast,
Yep.
even a podcast that you can lean into as a touch point is a tremendous way to help get you where you're going. So those would probably be the three that come to mind as pretty foundational.
Yeah, and to kind of add to what you said there, I know that you're offering up some free consultation or a mini coaching session with our listeners here. So if people want to dig into that, for like, yes, coaching, and it sounds like more going to be a great fit for me, how do people get access to that and get signed up to get on your schedule?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't want to talk to me because you're afraid I'll go on a rant and it won't stop, there's the possibility of that. For those of you that just want something free that'll lift you up, it's you can go to drmorganoaks.com. I've got a video. It's the 6 keys to live your top life, and it goes into clarity, courage, inspired action. It also clears up the past, gets you focused in the present with an eye on the future. So those are the 6 things that it gives you some tools around. That's if you're not wanting a conversation with me. If you would like to have a conversation with me, my goal is always to empower people. I do half-hour free calls where no matter what, I always assume that if I never see this person on the planet again, have I made things better for them? Have I given them something? And so same thing, go to drmorganoaks.com. If you look down, you'll see the free opt-in for the video. If you look up, you'll see an opportunity to come speak with me. And yeah, I can't wait to be of service, support you, and help you really. I want for you what you want for yourself. And if I don't know the answers, it's a good chance that I know somebody that does, and I can send you over there as well. So
Yeah, and I can tell you guys, Morgan is a heart-centered coach. Like, this guy is the real deal. He's in it to help people like you and I, and he's like I said, he's legit. I wouldn't put him in front of you guys if I didn't think that. So you and everybody listening knows that. Now, Morgan, I like to send our audience off with some action. All right. I like to have them set what I call their implementation alarm for the next 24 hours, something they can do to initiate change, to start, creating that positive momentum in their life. So what is, like, let's say somebody is sitting out there, they've been frustrated, they heard what we had to say today, and they are inspired and like, all right, for things to change, I need to change. I'm ready to make a simple step in the right direction. It's that first domino that we want to flick over to create that chain reaction, right?
Yeah.
So what is one simple tip that you would give somebody in that position that they could implement over the next 24 hours?
Yeah. So if they were sitting in an audience in front of me and I was able to ask, who here knows one thing that they need to start doing or stop doing to get to their health goal right now, everybody would raise their hand, right? Everybody knows that one thing. And so I think that's a big part of it. Like, just pick that one thing. And, if it feels too big, there's also the idea, kind of tipping that courage scale, I think happens in small steps, right? Like, you may not be able to commit to an Ironman, but you could probably commit to a 5K walk, run, a short amount of time from now, a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now. So, whatever that one thing is that, as I've been talking, usually people have this like tightness in their chest, or they feel it in their gut, or it's bouncing around in their mind. And they're like, I know what my thing is, so whatever that thing is for you, if all you do is listen to today's show, you might be inspired, you might be motivated, you might be entertained, but transformation requires you to take an action. So, what's that one thing that you're committing to in your heart, your mind, and your gut right now that will take you to the next level? And, and then you'll be able to ask that question again tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. So
Asking the right question, that seems to be something that we don't do as often as we should. Like, what is the right question? And that's even a good question. If you don't know what the question is, say, what's the right question I should be asking myself today? And then think about that, my friends. So I went deep. I feel like I really impressed our audience there. So
let's make a t-shirt out of that one.
Yeah. I went Yoda mode. It was right. Yoda-esque. So Dr. Morgan, man, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your investment in our mission that we're on together. This 1 Million Pound mission, it is a community. People are actively donating their weight loss, and the change that they're making, and the inspiration is coming from people like you. So you're a part of this. I can't wait to hit you up with that video email when we cross 100,000 pounds and 500,000 and we hit that million. I'll be like, we did it. And you're a part of that.
Yes, so absolutely.
I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. Psyched to be on the show. And one thing I would say about Adam, because you don't always know this when you're hearing their audio or you're just seeing a video of them. Like, I got to spend 3 days in a room with Adam, and, he's just a dude that from the distance, like the joy that he brings, the smile that you hear in his voice, like the kindness, but also the strength and like all the things that you want to see in an influencer. Like, that was one thing I was really impressed by you at the event that we met at, and just so grateful to be on the show, and think it's amazing the heart you have for service. So yeah, really honored to be here.
My brother, I appreciate it. I like being on the same side of the battle line of health versus not health with people like you. So that we're going to keep creating change together. All right, my friends, now it's time to get out there. We got to get into action. We got to get into implementation, set that implementation alarm, and let's start marching forward in the direction that we need to march, and get out there and own it. Every meal, every workout, every day. I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Now, don't forget to head on over to millionpoundmission.com to pick up your free Mission Possible Community Virtual Welcome Kit. Now, this free resource is going to show you how to get plugged into our community chats, our amazing Facebook group. It'll show you how to sign up for one-on-one hot seat sessions with me, the PhD, and we'll even show you how to start your own local meetup group for that extra support. Now, remember, my friend, this isn't just a podcast. This is a community, and you are an important part of it. So head on over to millionpoundmission.com today and get plugged in.